Have you ever wondered why the rich get richer and others don't? Could it be that a small percentage of the population seek out others to find, study, and execute on legal loopholes that exist within our financial life and make it easier for them to prosper? The answer is a resounding yes. This is the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. John has spent a lifetime researching and mastering the financial loopholes that he believes should be available to everyone. Join us as we explore different strategies that help you get farther faster towards building and enjoying a prosperous retirement.
This is the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz, and we welcome you. I'm Patrice Sikora. Okay, John, I admit I peeked at the topic for this show, facts versus feelings. And I got to tell you, it's rather sobering. But before we get there, hey, what's new in the world of John Mintz?
Well, I don't know what's new in the world of John Mintz, but there's a lot of new in the world. You know, I tell you, my mood today reminds me of a short story. Every now and then I'll go to the grocery store. Well, I go to the grocery store a lot, but when I go, inevitably you go up to the checkout counter, right? And the attendant asks you, "How are you doing?" And what does everybody say? Fine, right?
Fine, yep.
So once a blue moon, my wife's with me. She hates it when I do it, but I just respond miserable.
Oh.
And it just to see the reaction I'll get from them, which is they're in total shock because now they don't know what to say, right? But I'm just kidding at the grocery store. But when I tell you I'm mad, miserable, all that wrapped into one today, I'm not kidding. I'm mad as a hornet.
Why?
And so that's probably going to come out today. You might have to calm me down a couple of times. But the Treasury, literally, they dropped a financial bomb on us this week. And I want to, just quick, I call this our market update for the show. And I don't know if this is going to last 3 minutes or 30. I don't know. But, it's important, I think, that we talk about it today, Patrice. But, with all the chaos and the loss of life around the world, I think very few people notice what the Treasury Department did this week. And the deficit for fiscal year 2023 is now now I'm just talking about for this year, okay, 1.7 trillion, growing 23% in a single year. And we're not even done with the year yet. And the Treasury used 880 billion. They've used that much just to service the federal debt this year.
Well, you can't be angry at Treasury for that.
Who should we be angry at? I don't know. We got to be angry at a lot of different folks. Yeah, you're right. I don't disagree, but what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, Treasury has to pay those bills.
This is true.
We need to look at where the spending is going. And you and I both know that is a politically charged question.
It is. And I think we need to start holding people accountable. I mean, the reason for the debts in the first place is the spending. Okay, you talk about spending, that it tipped the scales this year, 6.1 trillion. So if you go to, the usdebtclock.org, you can see the spending real time adding up, and you can see the revenue real time adding up. Well, unfortunately, the spending is increasing when you go look at it, and the revenue is decreasing. So this is a problem. You know what the spending was this year? 6.1 trillion. You know what the revenue or the government receipts are?
No idea.
4.4 trillion. Well, you can figure out the problem, right? So we're 1.7 trillion deficit, outgo versus income. And unfortunately, the bigger number is growing and the smaller number is retreating.
Now, is part of that population, or is part of that the fact that we just spend too much?
Exactly. It is. In fact, you're right. Well, you were dead on today. So even the reduced revenues would have been okay. Okay. We would have still had a balanced budget this year if Biden would have simply allowed spending to return to the pre-pandemic level. Instead, the Treasury outlays are up 38% today compared to pre-pandemic levels. So you're right. This is dead on. That's the problem, is the spending is not only retreating, it's growing.
Let me ask you this. Have we ever in our country's history required a balanced budget?
Well, it depends on how you define required. That's our founding fathers required it. That's the way we built our country. And, in the early years, we didn't have this problem. And then just one administration to the next, it just got out of control. But it just seems like the pandemic was the catalyst, because we had to print bukus of money to help folks through this unprecedented time.
Keep the economy from collapsing, basically.
Yeah. And then we just made that precedent just became the reality of how things are going to be from now on. Despite this unsustainable path, the Biden administration is doubling down. Promising more government spending and multi-trillion-dollar deficits forever. And financial markets are now beginning to wake up to the fact that the Treasury eventually won't be able to pay its debts. And that day, I have to tell you, I'm telling everyone I'm coming in contact with, I think that day is going to arrive soon. The S&P 500 on August 1st it had started rallying this year after a horrible year last year, and it was up to 45.88 on August the 1st. Today, 41.28. It's down 10% in 3 months. Now you could, part of that I think is the surprise war over in the Middle East, and then the other part of it is the fact that people are worried. So I do teaching, worried about the deficit. I do teaching usually on an every other week basis. Well, I had a little bit of a break, so I taught about 4 weeks ago. Then I took some time off and went on a cruise with my wife, which was really fun, and then came back, and then I taught again. There was about a 4-week window in between that teaching. When I taught 4 weeks ago, the deficit was 33 trillion, because I put the deficit up on a slide as I'm teaching every single time I teach. It was 33 trillion when I did that. And then I taught on Thursday, it was 33.5. It grew a $500 billion in 4 weeks. I looked before we got on today. So from Thursday to today, it's almost 33.7.
Wow.
200 billion in a few days. It's just unsustainable now. And the icing on the cake is that the Treasury doesn't actually pay off debt when it matures. See, what happens is they just issue new debt to pay off the old debt,
exactly,
along with the interest, right?
That's why you're buying Treasury bonds. That's what that is.
Exactly. So trillions of dollars in existing debt at these low interest rates before, we're now going to roll over at rates 2 to 3 times as high, right? Within the next year. It's all going to compound this thing into what I call the death spiral, right? The tax man cometh is another way to say it.
This all begs the question, John.
Yeah.
How do you solve it?
Well, I guess that's for another day. But if you really want to know, you can go back and listen to a series that I just recorded. I think it was a 3-part series on taxes that gives folks a lot of insight as to how they can prepare for this storm that is here and is going to be growing, the storm being the tax storm.
And we'll have to get those episode numbers and put them in the show notes so people can go back.
Yep. Bottom line, that's what needs to happen. You gotta move things out of the way of the storm that's coming, right?
All right.
On to the show. Now that we've got everybody in the right mood. So let's see if we can't talk about today's show, which I've labeled Facts versus Feelings. I forget where I got this idea from, but sometimes facts versus fiction. I'm calling it facts versus feelings. Same kind of thing, right? But I just want to go through a few things from a financial planning perspective. There's a lot of things that people think that are true that are not. And there's a lot of things that people think that are true that may be true. But I just want to throw out some facts today, and you and I talk around those. And the idea of these shows is what the name of the show is, The Secrets of the Wealthy. And we just don't want them to be secrets. That we want people to know that their financial future can be good. All it takes sometimes is just a little bit of planning and execution to be so. So if we can help one person or one couple today, then we've had a successful show, right?
All right, let's do it.
All right. Facts versus feelings. Is the following a fact or a feeling? 32.9% of Americans 18 years and older have no more than $100 in their savings account.
I would even wonder how many people have a savings account.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that is a fact. The bigger fact is that the number in last year was 22%. So it's grown by 50% more or less in a year.
But still, $100, John. That's nothing.
Yeah. I just you can not take to the movie, not take the kids to the movie one time a month, and you got $100 probably.
That's right. You've doubled your savings account.
Right. That's just that's really sad to me that a third of them, and we're not talking about young folks, right? 18 years. This is 18 years and older, like all the way up, all the way through, right? And so I just think, I always encourage folks that little things turn into big things if done over time, if done consistently over time, but unfortunately, both good and bad. So if we do little things consistently over time, even if we save $10 a month or $20 a month or whatever it is, everybody can save, right? Over time, it adds up to significant amounts of money. We've all heard those numbers, but you got to start somewhere.
And remember compounding.
Yeah, exactly. Fact number 2, or feeling number 2, only 33% of Americans have a written financial plan.
That I believe.
That is a fact. The folks that come into my office, I would guess that number is even high. Written financial plan, meaning they have a plan that is documented somewhere that they at least are aware of it. I would say that number is closer to 10% of what I see that comes into my office. But the fact is, it's still low. And so we did a show a while back. I think it was episode number 30, show number 30. And it was about the power of measuring your progress. And so those of you that do not have a financial plan, I encourage you to go back and listen to that show. And maybe it might encourage you to build a plan, to get, whether it's building your own plan or get with somebody that can help you with that plan. At minimum, it's going to give you peace of mind that you actually are on a good course and you just need to stay on that course. At worst, it might tell you that, hey, it might get you a little bit concerned and that maybe you don't feel like you're on a good course and you need to be, and you need to get a plan together. So please, if you do not have a plan, take the time to get one.
Okay. And it's never too late.
That's right. Never is. All right. Next, most retirees, fact or feelings, most retirees can survive in retirement on Social Security alone.
If you've been hiding under a rock, you may believe you can.
Feelings. That's definitely feelings. Oh, don't let your feelings get in the way. The AARP reports that the average Social Security recipient gets $1,668 per month. That's as of May of last year. Those that wait till full retirement age, which is usually right now around age 67, that number is $3,345. Unfortunately, only 3.9% wait until ages 67 to 69 to start. Only 3.7% wait till age 70, which is the highest number that you can collect. 34%, over a third of individuals, take it at the earliest age, which is age 62. So based on what we just said above, the average, not those that take it 62, which would be less, the average recipient's getting, let's just call it $1,700 a month. I don't think that's going to pay the bills. How about you, Patrice?
No. And this goes back to your comment just before, the written financial plan. Do you know how much you're spending a month? How much do you need a month?
Right.
$1,668 most likely ain't gonna do it. And it hits me. People, I understand why some people take Social Security at 62 or before 70. maybe they need it. But
Yeah.
boy, unfortunately, I know people who don't need it and they take it. And I ask them why. Well,
Yeah.
it's my money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, really?
Well, it is, but there's still maybe a preferred way to take it.
Yeah, there's more money, more of your money if you just be patient.
Yeah. Yeah. Patience is a virtue. Yeah, that's right. It's so if 10 people come into my office, couples or individuals come into my office so for the first meeting, and part of that meeting is we ask them, generally speaking, how much they spend a month on reoccurring expenses. You know, the stuff that happens every month, groceries and insurance and gas and those types of utilities. How many people out of 10 you think know what that number is or even have a general idea about what that number is?
It's got to be very, very low. I
Yeah,
really,
probably two or three.
yeah.
Yeah, two or three. And then so what we do is we go through the process of going line item by line item with them to help them figure out what that number is because we can't plan without it.
That horrible, horrible word, John, budget.
Right. Yeah. But it's part of the process. And it goes back to that other thing is we need a plan, right?
Yeah.
But all right, next one. If my employer matches my 401k, I should max out my 401k plan. Is that fact or feelings?
You got me there. You got me there. I would say it's a fact.
Okay. The answer is it depends.
Of course.
Yeah. So if they'll match your 401k, generally speaking, what we tell folks is free money. In the order of money, free money is first. And then tax-free money is second, and then on down the line. So yeah, if employer's going to give you free money, we want to take that every single time. If at any point in time that changes, and it does change, employers do change from time to time as to what they will match or won't match at all. But it really comes down to, do you think taxes are going to be higher in the future or not if there is no match, right? Because if there is no match, then it really doesn't behoove you. If you think taxes are going to be higher in the future, it's just not in your best interest to be postponing that tax into the future, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the biggie. Only 4% of individuals that actually have a Roth 401k contribution allowed at their employer, only 4% of individuals take advantage of that. Can you imagine? So they're putting money into traditional 401k, knowing that taxes are going to be higher in the future when they could be putting in the Roth 401k. I reveal this every time I teach, and inevitably there's individuals that come into my office for sit down with us, and when they come in, they say, "I just want you to know I already changed that at my employer before I even came," which is good. Again, we're making a difference, right? Which is awesome. So, all right, next, I don't worry about market crashes because markets recover quickly. Is that fact or feelings?
And I would say to you, sequence of returns.
Yeah, most people don't know what that is. Sequence of returns. The answer is, it depends, right?
It depends, exactly.
Yeah.
Where are you in your retirement journey when that happens?
Correct. But here's a few facts that might say that could be feelings. The pandemic, yes, we had a really quick turnaround to that market crash in what year is that? 2020 now, right?
Yeah.
Things came down abruptly because people were very, very, very scared because they didn't know what they didn't know. Right. And once we kind of figured out we had a handle on it, it returned right back and then some. But 2008 to 2009, it took over 5 years to get back to even. 2000 through 2003, it took over 7 years to get back to even. 1929, it took over 20 years to get back to even. In the Nikkei, it's been 34 years and it still hasn't gotten back to even.
I'm glad I'm not in the Nikkei.
The Nikkei index.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not invested there.
Amen to that. But international investment is a thing. But the point is, if it can happen to the Nikkei, it can happen to the S&P. And I'm not saying it will happen, but where the point is, right back to your point, also, Patrice, which is, hey, depending on where you're at, if you're 25 and this happens to you, even if it's 20 years, you got time on your side. But if you're 65,
right.
And you have a double, not one, but two crashes in the decade like we had in the 2000 through 2009, you just don't recover.
That's right.
That's both facts and feelings, I guess. The federal tax code is over 70,000 pages long. Fact or feeling?
Yes, that's most likely a fact because it is totally absurd.
Hey, good guess. It is a fact. Hey, the first year of taxation, which was 1913, it was 4 pages long. Now it's over 70,000 pages long and growing. But the good news is, if we can draw some good news, is the majority of that is built for the benefit of us and or business owners. But unfortunately, not everyone knows or understands how to take advantage of it. So we encourage our listeners to find somebody that can help them learn how to use legal loopholes to make sure they're not paying more than their fair share of taxes. We all have to pay taxes, but we don't pay more than our fair share, right? All right, next, Social Security is estimated to run out of money in 2033.
Well, that's been a moving target, but yeah, it's supposed to run out of money. My caveat here would be it's the third rail of politics. Who's going to touch it?
Amen to that. Who is?
Yeah.
Yeah, because whoever does repair that isn't going to be very popular, are they? There's definitely not going to get reelected. So
something does have to be done.
I guess what's going to happen is whoever's going to be sitting in the chair in 2032 will be the one that has to fix it. The can just keeps getting kicked down the road. And so if no changes are made between now and then benefits will be reduced to 77% of current benefit is the mathematical estimate. Yeah. That's a direct quote from the Social Security Division, by the way. And the Social Security Division is the one that is communicating with us. If you go to the Social Security Division site, it says right in the site, hey, we are going to run out. And here's our estimate as to when we're going to run out. It's pretty it's crazy that this stuff is out there, but nobody seems to want to talk about it or fix it, right? But I guess it'll get fixed at some point. But again, if you do not have a plan, it kind of keeps going back to the very first point we made. You need a plan. Because if in fact that your Social Security was to get cut by 23, 24, 25% or more, what's your plan to offset that, right? Do you have a plan? And if not, you probably need to get one. Okay, 2 more. Medicare will cover all my medical needs, facts or feelings.
Dream on, my friend. Just dream on.
Yes, feelings. It's a really common misconception that you won't have any medical expenses after starting Medicare. But Medicare does have some limitations. Some examples are long-term care, dental appointments, vision assessments. These are things that often are not covered depending on, what your, how your Medicare and your supplements are set up and all of that. Again, if you don't have a plan for how to cover those shortfalls, as it would be good to have one. Last but not least, please go ahead.
One other thing maybe is that, Medicare is not free. People will, I'm going to be 65 and I get Medicare and it's free. Not really, people.
We chart out when folks come in, we actually chart out due to the massive amounts. 91% of assets today lie in tax deferred assets, right? And so in the early 70s, the IRS starts forcing that money out of those accounts, which is income. Well, because it's income, that means it's taxed. And because it's taxed, that means it throws you into higher income for that year, which means it's going to increase the cost of your Medicare.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so folks, they just don't know this either. So, we work really hard at trying to spread out that taxation so that it doesn't have this. One of my clients called it a tax bomb down the road. I'd never heard it. I use that almost every day now. I just found that I heard that from one of my clients 2 weeks ago. Now I'm using it every day, but that's really kind of what it is. This bomb's going to go off someday, especially if this deficit keeps running out of control. All right, last one. Money coming from tax-sheltered retirement plans will be taxed at rates lower than when you were working. Facts or feelings?
Oh, taxes, money. You're going to pay taxes. Hello, no matter what. So I think that's a feelings.
Feelings. Okay. It could be a fact, but I don't find it to be true very often. I think if I had to guess, I'd probably say less than 5 to 10% of the folks come into my office. That's actually reality. The vast majority, it's the opposite. We know for a fact taxes are going up in 2026. We all know that. If you didn't know that, just look back and read the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017. That's what lowered our taxes, and that ends in, goodness, a little more than 2 years.
Yeah.
That's going to end. So we know taxes are going up at that point for sure. Then we just talked about required minimum distributions where money's going to get forced out. Then, of course, we got all of that on top of a pension. Then, oh, by the way, if we lose a spouse somewhere along the way, then that's going to throw us into a higher tax bracket as well. But I think the most underestimated of all of those things, or in addition to those things, is congressional risk increases, is what I call it.
What do you mean?
Meaning, with the stroke of a pen, the tax rates can change.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right.
And so I'm going to end this today the same way I started. And that's with the question. And it's kind of a, you call it a rhetorical question, but we'll talk about it anyway. But if the debt is rising at a rate faster than I think anyone ever thought could happen, there's 2 ways to fix that, right? And it's got to be fixed pretty quick, or our dollar's going to shrink to nothing. There's going to be a certain point in time where, whether it's us or others being other countries that are investing in us via debt, just say, that's just not a good investment anymore. I think I'll take my money elsewhere. And so we can't let that happen. So there's only 2 ways to fix it, right? One is dramatically reduce spending. No, I don't think we've showed any signs of that.
No.
The second the second is dramatically increase taxes.
And as you said, we know that there will be tax increases. Dramatic, I sincerely hope not. But the spending is not about to come down anytime soon. I really doubt that.
Nope. There's the history of our country says that we're really good at increasing taxes. And I just remind folks from I'm doing this from memory, so it may not be exactly correct. From 1932 to 1981, I think that's correct. The top tax bracket never got below 60%. 5 decades straight. That's the history. The average tax over since 1913, the average top bracket, 63.8%. So that is what my belief is, where we're headed. I hope I'm wrong. I say that a lot on these shows, starting in the beginning of 2022 when I started telling people to batten down the hatches. I hope I'm wrong on that, but I'd rather prepare for that and be wrong than not prepare for that and be right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way for us to wrap this up today. Anything from you in addition to that, Patrice?
No, the only thing I'm going to ask you, John, is how can people reach you?
Well, there's a couple of different ways folks can reach us, and we really look forward to hearing from folks. And so you can call us directly at 817-225-6260, or you can go to directly to our site and connect with us that way as well, which is Biltmore-financial.com, Biltmore-financial.com.
Well, John, this really was a rather sobering episode, but so full of information. It was great. Thank you. And listeners, please like, follow, or subscribe to the podcast. Of course, don't forget to share. And thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of John Mintz. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.